Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm bringing you some more Dawn of War 2 Retribution beta content. Reason for that is that the last video got about 120,000 views, so there does appear to be some degree of interest in it. A lot of people have asked me over Twitter, and you know, they do this every time I cover a game like this. Oh, are you going to cast it? Are you going to cast it? Well, I mean, maybe. It is a possibility, certainly, that I think there is a sufficient degree of interest in an RTS other than StarCraft 2 that I could justify maybe dedicating a little bit of time to it. I don't know, I'll have to look at it. It comes down to me also gaining a lot more experience in how Dawn of War 2 actually plays out in order for it to be viable from any kind of casting environment. But might as well, I'll just give you a look at it anyway. I don't expect this to be like mega casting or anything like that. This is more of an explanatory kind of video. And I was having quite a few problems with the game simply because I was getting my ass kicked a lot of the time. And that's to be expected. When you're learning a game that you've barely actually played, you can run into people, especially in the beta, because we're talking about people who have pre-ordered it. So these are people that are probably playing multiplayer quite a bit, and they're going to kick your ass from here to Cadia. It's a little unpleasant. Whatever the case, I decided that there is a solution to that, and that was to use the Plague! Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing right here. The Plague Champion as my commander, and he's become easily my favorite hero after this. Personally, when it comes to like 40k lore, I'm not really big into Nurgle. Nurgle is not the Chaos God that I say affiliate myself with, but that's incredibly geeky. It is incredibly geeky, why not? I wouldn't say that I affiliate myself with that or anything, but I prefer Tzeentch. I think Tzeentch is a much cooler god. You know, my favorite Chaos Legion, for instance, is the Thousand Suns. I love the Tzeentchian stuff going on there. Now, you see my opponent is going with my second favorite race in the 40k universe, which is, of course, the Orcs. He has the Mech Boy as his commander unit, which, I don't know, I tried the Mech Boy when I used to play a little bit of Dawn of War 2 multiplayer when the original was out. I tried the Mech Boy and I was really not a fan of it. I couldn't justify it versus the War Boss or anything like that. You see right here exactly why, is that the Mech Boy sucks. I mean, in close combat, if I charge in there with a bunch of heretics, I'd have kicked the crap out of him. Now, what I'm trying to do here is obviously to try and gain map control. And this is something that I started to realize. I mean, I knew about this already, but it takes a lot of getting used to in comparison to, say, StarCraft 2, that this is a game completely about terrain and map control, way more so than it is in StarCraft 2. And in StarCraft 2, map control is important. Really, really important, because obviously it lets you expand safely, it lets you keep an eye on what your opponent is doing, it lets you see attacks coming and be able to react to them appropriately, as well as limit your opponent's options. But in this game, map control is so essential, it's not even funny. I mean, for instance, controlling this and this right here, there's actually an arrow in the casting interface right here. I don't know if this is actually a hotkeyable, but you can place attention arrows and things like that. I don't really know why, but you have to capture at least 2 out of these 3 victory points right here in order to drain the tickets of your opponent right at the top. You know, so it's kind of like a battlefield sort of situation. Now, got a big charge at the middle right here, and this is the test of my defenses. However, I decided to give my Plague Champion my favorite weapon ever, which is the Plague Sword. The Plague Sword is awesome because, as you can see, it kills the enemy and then gives me control of them for a very brief time. So suddenly, I'm able to turn the Orcs against them. It's amazing against any race that uses large squads that are not particularly strong on their own. Amazing. You see, I'm getting control of all of these dudes right here. Chopped at least 2 squads of units into tiny little pieces. And I can take his Mech Boy out as well. There's no way his Mech Boy is going to be able to fight me here. You see the amount of damage we're able to do with every swing. The Plague Champion is pretty damn awesome in melee. There are more powerful, like the Chaos Lord, for instance, is better in melee combat, particularly once you give him the Blood Maul or Lightning Claws or anything like that. But Plague Champion, with the ability to actually raise those from the dead, as well as his suppression abilities. For instance, you see there, I gave him an upgrade, the Fetid Armor, which gives him increased health, and he can unleash an unholy stench. Yes, indeed. Basically, smells like your average LAN party, or indeed your average Games Workshop after a night of gaming by neckbeards, whatever the case. And you can suppress enemies around you and do damage and things like that, so that's pretty damn handy. In comparison, well, indeed, in combination with the Plague Sword, it's really great because you can lock enemies down. Now, I do have my cultists right here, or indeed heretics. I keep getting mixed up. In the original game, there were cultists, which actually did building. You don't have building units in this game, you just got your command center. I've given these guys grenade launchers against Orcs. That's pretty good, honestly. You know, you don't really want to get into a hand-to-hand fight with slugger boys with these guys, because they will just get annihilated. You can use the detonation ability, which will help. his mech boy has only been upgraded with one thing, which is a maximum energy ability, which is actually not all that great. They deploy some Havocs right here as well, heavy weapons. You gotta be really, really careful with your heavy weapons. They're so powerful, but they can be so fragile. If they get locked down or they get caught out and flanked, they will just get torn apart so fast, it's not even funny. I'm sticking behind cover here for as long as I can. I'm getting shot to pieces here by those looters, but I'll at least be able to throw some grenades out and then I can retreat. Bear in mind, if you start playing this game, retreat is the most important button you will ever learn. That is the X button, and you need to know when to retreat, because obviously you lose control when you press the retreat button, but if you lose your squad entirely, that is bad, because it is much better to replace them via the use of the reinforcement key when you get back to the command center, as opposed to just losing your squad entirely, because you end up losing experience, so you don't get an experienced squad that's much more powerful, and usually it's cheaper to reinforce the squad than replace it completely. Plus, obviously, you start to lose map control if you have less squads on the field than your opponent. Now, I've got a good lockdown right here. Anything that goes into that line of fire is going to get shot to pieces by the heavy bolter. I've reinforced my Heretic squad, because I didn't lose them, so that's pretty important, and pulled my Plague Champion back, because, of course, if your hero unit gets killed, you've got to spend a fairly obscene amount of resources in order to get him back. Not good at this stage in the game, could really cripple you. Now, what I'd also say is that timing your upgrade from Tier 1 technology to Tier 2 technology is a fairly vital thing to do. It does cost quite a bit. It costs like 300 resources and something like 125 power, something like that. And you can't build anything in the meantime. But once you get up to Tier 2 units, you get access to a whole bunch of different stuff. In this particular game, I'll be using Tier 2 for upgrades only. I'm not actually deploying any Tier 2 units, simply because my opponent ends up losing this badly. Again, like I said, I'm not casting this game. If I was casting, you would know about it. And I may do so with some replays in the future. But for this, it's pretty much purely instructional. You're not seeing an awful lot of new stuff from Retribution here either, but it should give you a feel as to what the multiplayer is actually like, and whether or not you are interested in seeing more coverage about it. And obviously my moderators will let me know about your feedback in the comments section below the video. Right, okay, so I was quite patient with grabbing the middle there. I was wanting to wait until my opponent wasn't able to get anything going. You see right there, he's getting everything sorted out, and he is massing a force to go in and try again. However, I'm entrenched in this area, so because he's waited so long, I'm able to take this middle point, and then I'm able to deploy in such a way that's going to cause him an awful lot of problems. I've got a new squad of Space Marines up, because my guys got surrounded and killed, which is something, it's very risky against stuff like Imperial Guard, particularly against Orcs, because they can lock you down in combat very easily. And I'm going to also place a heavy bolter turret right here, which should cover this angle of approach. And right now, you see, that's my heavy bolter there, covers this area. I can get some good suppressive fire in if they decide to attack from this angle, and it will also give me some cover if they try and attack this requisition point right here, which secures the majority of my left flank. Okay, now they are running right into the middle of this, and you're going to see just how much damage I could do to them as a direct result of that. I've got heavy bolter to the left, heavy bolter to the right. They're running directly into it. They're not able to do anything. Now, what I would have done here if I was the Orc player is I would have built some Storm Boys and actually gone in with those instead. I don't believe you can get those in Tier 1, but I might be wrong. I'll have to check that out. But whatever the case, what's happening here is they're getting absolutely slaughtered. You can clearly see it right now. I was able to suppress them with the foul stench, charge straight into the middle, use a healing ability, and trash them completely. They're driven straight back, which again gives me map control over pretty much the entire map, because they've retreated all of their forces. So that gives me an opportunity to take some points. So I took that requisition point. What I want to do is try and knock out his power node right here. He has one there, and I believe he has one right here. This is his main power node. It would be nice to take this out, but I don't really want to commit troops to the right flank right now. As regards to the power that I've got, I have enough rolling. I'm not really too concerned about power right now. Again, if you build a lot of power generators, you risk them, one, getting blown up, and two, you're spending requisition that you could otherwise be spending on troops. Now, we're in a good position right here to try and lock him down and make sure that he can't really break out of his base without some fairly major changes in tactics. So I've got my Heretics sat down here by some light cover, ready to bombard them with grenades if they decide to come in. My Plague Champion is at the front, exactly where he should be, ready to engage, and he's going to dub down a heavy bolter turret as well. We've got some flanking right here by some Storm Boys, and this is where things start to get a little bit dangerous. I don't know if he had to upgrade in order to get that, if I'm totally honest. See if it actually tells you by the FOW. Again, the casting interface doesn't tell you that, so I don't know if he's still in Tier 1. Again, I haven't played Orcs very much, so I can't remember if they're Tier 1 or Tier 2 units, but whatever the case, they're very dangerous, and those would be the kind of things that I would be using to try and lock down these Havocs. Now, as it turns out, that's not what he tries to do. He goes in after the heavy bolter turret, which, you know, I can see why he would do that. The problem is that he is now up against my Plague Champion in melee, which is only going to end one way. See my Plague Champion decides his way through there without any problems whatsoever. Hey, look, free Storm Boys. Indeed, if I actually had the micromanagement and control, I could even use them. You could actually use the abilities of Storm Boys, which is really helpful, and you might not have seen what actually went on in the back there, which killed basically his entire army. I don't know if I can skip back in this casting interface. Well, I actually can. But whatever the case, I used an ability which I'd been sort of charging up Chaos Power throughout the game. I used an ability called Noxious Cloud right in the middle and killed his entire army, and that, as they say, was that. But yeah, do let me know as to whether or not you actually have any interest in seeing any more Dawn of War 2 content. And we'll have a look, obviously, at the views of this and see what's going on. As regards to actually casting it again, yeah, possibility, certainly. I have no problem with that. I think that a lot of games can be cast. I think that Dawn of War 2 could potentially be cast. I think there are currently some balance problems, but then again, that might be due to some misunderstanding of the game. So I don't want to go out there and say that, hey, Imperial Guard have balance problems because of Sentinels or whatever, even though maybe I think that, because I maybe don't know enough about the game to actually make that judgment. But perhaps people are interested in seeing some casting with some 40k lore thrown in there. Like I said, I read 40k books like no one's business. That is my guilty pleasure, trashy 40k novels. And I know they're bad. I know they're bad, but I'll read them anyway because I like the universe and the story of it. So if you want to maybe see some casts with some 40k lore thrown in there for good measure, let me know, and I'll see what I can come up with. Like I said, the beta continues to run for a little while. I do have the game pre-purchased, so once the game comes out, we'll see whether or not there's any interest in developing the competitive scene in a minor fashion. Thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you next time. Play good!